Welcome to the Middle Ages, a 1,000-year stretch of history, often romanticized by sweeping orchestral scores and shiny suits of armor. But if you could actually step out of a time machine into a 14th century street, the first thing that would hit you wouldn't be the majesty. It would be the smell. Today, we're peeling back the tapestry to look at the grime, the guts, and the dirty truth about how our ancestors actually lived. The Great Stink, urban planning, or lack thereof. In a modern city, waste vanishes down a pipe. In a medieval city, waste was an ever-present neighbor. The flying toilets. Most homes didn't have plumbing. People used chamber pots. When they were full, the standard procedure was to shout a warning, "Gardez-le," from the French garde-l'eau, and hurl the contents out the window into the street. The gutters. Streets were designed with a central trench called a kennel. This was meant to carry rainwater away, but it usually ended up as a stagnant soup of human waste, animal entrails from the local butcher, and rotting vegetable scraps. The professional gong farmers. Believe it or not, there was a job for this. Gong farmers were paid, quite well actually, to clean out cesspits, the deep holes under communal privies, in the dead of a night. It was dangerous work. The fumes alone could be lethal. Personal hygiene, myths versus reality. There's a common myth that medieval people never bathed. That's not entirely true, but their version of clean was very different from ours. Public bathhouses. In the early Middle Ages, public baths were popular social hubs. However, as the plague tore through Europe, people began to fear that hot water opened the pores and allowed miasma, bad air, to enter the body. Bathing became much less frequent. The linen secret. Instead of washing their skin, people focused on their linen undergarments. They believed the linen wicked away the dirt and sweat. If your linen looked white, you were considered clean, even if your body underneath hadn't seen a tub in a month. Dental care. No toothpaste? No problem. People used rough cloths to rub their teeth with mixtures of charcoal, herbs like rosemary, or even crushed salt. It was abrasive, but surprisingly effective at preventing some decay. The medical horror show. If you got sick in 1350, your doctor was more likely to kill you than the disease. Medicine was based on the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Bloodletting. If you had a fever, the logic was that you had too much blood. Out came the leeches or the phlegm, a sharp blade to drain you. Trepanation. Got a headache or acting crazy? The solution might be to drill a hole directly into your skull to let the demons, or pressure, out. The surgeon barber. Surgeons weren't high-status doctors. They were the same guys who cut your hair. Since they had the sharpest knives, they handled everything from beard trims to limb amputations, usually without any anesthesia stronger than a stiff drink. Living with roommates, pests. In the Middle Ages, you were never truly alone. Lice and fleas. These were a fact of life for everyone from the lowliest peasant to the king. Clothes were rarely washed, and bedding was often made of straw, which served as a luxury hotel for insects. The Black Death. This was the ultimate dirty truth. Spread by fleas on rats, the bubonic plague wiped out roughly 30% to 50% of Europe's population. People had no idea about germ theory. They thought it was a punishment from God, or caused by corrupt air. What was for dinner? Forget the 24/7 grocery store. Your diet was dictated by the dirt you stood on. Pottage. This was the staple for peasants. A thick, never-ending stew of grains, cabbage, and whatever vegetables were available. The pot was rarely emptied. New ingredients were just added to the old ones. The bread danger. In wet years, rye grain could be infected with a fungus called ergot. Eating ergot-contaminated bread caused St. Anthony's fire, hallucinations, a burning sensation in the limbs, and eventually, gangrene. Small beer. Since the water in cities was often contaminated by the flying toilets mentioned earlier, people drank low-alcohol beer. The boiling process killed the bacteria, making it much safer than a glass of water. Medieval versus modern hygiene. The Middle Ages weren't just about knights and dragons. They were about survival in a world that was loud, smelly, and incredibly dangerous. It was a time of incredible resilience, because if you could survive the water, the waste, and the doctors, you were tough enough to build the foundations of the modern world.